Hi there and welcome to my channel. My name is Lydia and this is Clever Girls Craft. In this video, I'll be showing you my favorite item to make, which is my glitter dipped personalized Flair pen. When I started making these in 2018, I had an idea to make them, but I didn't really know how to execute it. And so it took me a while, but after a lot of trial and error, I started making them. And so I want to show you how to make them from start to finish, and hopefully you'll like making them too and make it your own. And so stay tuned, we're gonna talk about glitter dipped Flair pens. Let's start with supplies. I'm gonna list and link everything in the description box below as well. But you're gonna need pens. So you can really use any capped pen or marker that you like, but it should have a smooth, uniform casing. I prefer the Flair pens and Sharpies because these sell the best in my shop. But I know there are tons of types of pens that you can use. So just figure out which ones you would prefer. Next, you're gonna need a paintbrush. I prefer the nylon bristles because they don't shed as much. Also, you're gonna need extra fine or ultra fine glitter to match your pen casings. I mix all of my own glitter so they match the pen cases super well. But you know, if you don't want them to match, you can get creative and just, make it your own. What I don't recommend is anything other than extra fine or ultra fine. Don't go with chunky or anything like that because it takes more layers of resin to cover this glitter and to make it smooth. And in my experience, the other types actually end up causing peeling towards the end of the pen. Next, you're gonna need Mod Podge. You can either use gloss or matte, it won't matter. And then sandpaper. I prefer the 150 grit. You only need this if you're going to be doing markers or pens that have like really bold logos and writing on them, like the Sharpies here. So you'll be sanding off all of that wording. But with the Flairs, you don't really need the sandpaper at all. All right, let's move on to our safety gear. You're gonna need some isopropyl alcohol, a box cutter, and most importantly, you're gonna need a respirator mask. I do not recommend working with resin unless you have a respirator mask. Also, the isopropyl alcohol, you wanna make sure that it's at least 90%. You'll need your resin as well because obviously you're gonna be resining these pens. Some nitrile gloves, duct tape, and a pool noodle. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. As far as the resin, I really recommend the Art and Glow 1-to-1 epoxy resin because I've tried other brands of crafting resin and they're just too thick for this type of project. Next up, you're gonna need your cup turner. So a single turner is fine. I just use the 4-cup turner because I do large batches at once and this just happens to work for me. All right, so now let's start prepping our pens. You're gonna need some Mod Podge in a cup and set it aside. Here's when you're going to sand off any logos or writing that might be on your pens, but make sure that you're wearing a mask so that you're not breathing in those particles. With the Sharpies especially, I sand off all the logos because the wording really shows up under the glitter if you don't. So take your time, sand it off, use some alcohol and wipe the pen clean afterwards, and then you're ready to glitter it. All right, so now you're gonna wanna paint on a thin layer of Mod Podge onto each pen or marker. You're gonna cover any area that you'll wanna cover with glitter. Make sure that you get, really close to the pen cap as well. So that it's completely ready for glitter. After you pour on the glitter, make sure that you tap the pen a little bit to shake off any excess that you might have, and then set it aside to dry. You'll need to stand the pen upside down until it dries. So I'm showing you here how I have poked holes in an old box and put the pens in cap side down until they dry. Continue this process until you've glittered all of your pens. Once your pens have dried, it's time to get them on the turner. So you're gonna take your pool noodle and cut it to the size to fit your cup turner. For me, I needed 3 inches of it. And And then I'm gonna take the caps off of my pens and markers and cut 2-inch strips of duct tape for each pen cap. Then I'm gonna apply the duct tape to the top of the pen cap, leaving the pen cap opening open. Apply the duct taped pen cap to the pool noodle with even spacing so the noodle stays balanced on the turner. I've found that you can fit approximately 8 caps on each foam roller comfortably. More than that, and it gets really crowded when you try to put the pens in. So stick to 8 or less. My cup turner came with this foam tape that allows me to get a snug fit for the pool noodles on the turning rod. You don't want any of your pool noodles like wobbling around on the rod, because then that can affect how evenly the resin turns while it's curing. So once you have a good fit, you can start resining your pens, but take your time and like apply strips of this foam tape stuff so that the pool noodle is nice and snug on there. Once you have a nice snug fit, you can start resining your pens. So you're gonna mix your resin and start your turner. If you're looking for a good resin mixing tutorial, I have one linked above and also in the description box. You're gonna wanna apply a thin layer of resin to each pen with gloves on. Cover all of the glittered area evenly. You can smooth it out with your finger and just go around the top there and make sure that the whole glittered area on the pen is completely covered with resin, nice and even. Then you're gonna put each pen or marker into the cap on the pen turner and let it turn until it's cured. Curing times vary, so make sure that you read your resin packaging to find out how long full curing time is for your specific brand of resin. All right, I don't recommend using a heat gun or a torch here for popping air bubbles like people do usually, like when you're making coasters or things like that. When you're working with these pens, you run the risk of drying out the ink inside of the casing when you apply heat externally. So I've definitely done that and ruined some pens, so just don't make the mistakes I made. If you must pop air bubbles, just please keep that in mind. You might want to use a straw with your breath instead, just like trying to blow the air bubbles out, or just smooth it out again with your finger. That's what I do. All right, now that our pens have cured, I'm going to turn my turners off and take my pens out and put the caps back on each pen. I keep extra pen caps on hand so that I don't have to like take the foam rollers apart every time I take the pens off. Now they're like beautiful and great as is right now. And let's say that you don't want to add a name to it. You are still going to continue on with this process that I'm going to show you next, but you can see how like sparkly they are and really pretty already. Since I am adding names to these pens, I've used a machine to cut out each name from vinyl, and then I weeded the vinyl and set it aside. As I am preparing to apply these names, I need to make sure that the pens are really smooth. And so I run my finger over each pen to see if there are any lumps or sharp areas. And then I use sandpaper to sand those areas down. So if I feel that there's like a little sharp piece of glitter poking through or a lump of some sort, I'm going to take my sandpaper and sand that area down. Now I apply a transfer tape over the name and then peel it off of the white paper backing, and I apply the vinyl to the pen. I make sure that it's nice and straight and press it down, then peel the transfer tape off of it. Once all of the vinyl is applied, we're gonna seal the vinyl in with another coat of resin. This is the second and final resining process. And so you're just gonna repeat what you did the previous time. Just apply a thin coat, spread it out evenly, and let it cure for however long it needs to cure. And then that's it. You have beautifully personalized glitter dip pens that you can sell or gift, and they're just really unique. And so I hope that this tutorial has been helpful. If it has, please like and share it. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments below.